So this is our video about ionic compounds and how we actually form the ionic compounds. So first of all, what is an ionic compound? An ionic compound is a compound composed of ions held together by ionic bonds. Remember, ions, that means a charged, either positive or negative particle. And this whole idea of an ionic bond means that we've got a positive charge attracting to a negative charge. And that simple attraction of opposites is what holds these ions together. So that's what it means when we say a compound. We've got two ions combined together. So how we do this process is we always combine a cation. Remember, cats are positive, and anions, which are negative, in order to create a neutral compound. So basically we get plus a minus equals 0. It equals neutral. The goal is to get to neutral. So we also want to use as few ions as possible. Just like we simplify in math, like you're not going to say 4 out of 8, you're going to simplify it to 1/2. We also simplify, so we use as few of each ion as possible. So when we're writing the chemical formulas, we always write the cation first. Typically, the cations are on the left side of the periodic table, and then the anions are on the right side of the periodic table. So that's kind of helpful. Also, when we're doing this, we don't record the charges in the chemical formula. We still need to use subscripts, so we use those if we have more than one of any particular ion. But we don't record the charges because overall, once they're ionically bonded, there isn't a charge. So here are some problems for us to work on. The first one is strontium 2+ and chloride, which has got a -1 charge. So here's the deal. We've got 2 positive charges and 1 negative charge. So I'm going to show you kind of how I did this. So if I think of this, I've got 1 strontium, which has a charge of +2, and then I've got chloride, which has a charge of -1. So how do I get 1 to turn into 2? I have to multiply. So what do I multiply by? I multiply by 2. So here I am, whoops, I've got 2 chlorine. All right, so I've got 2 chlorine. So 2 times 1 equals, or I'm sorry, 2 times -1, because I'm talking about chlorine, gives me -2. So that means that I know I'm going to need 1 strontium ion and 2 chloride ions. So that's how I make my equation. My cation needs to come first. So my cation's my positive ion, so I put my Sr first, and I don't put anything after simply because it's I only need one of them. Then I've got my Cl for chlorine. Whoops. Got my Cl for chlorine, and I have to put a subscript 2 there because I needed 2 in order to make it balance. So try these problems. And try these problems on your own, kind of doing the same way I did it, where it says balance your charges. Think about how to do the math to make those balance. And then pause this video and then check your answers. All right, so now you've unpaused, and let's just go through to make sure you're right. So here we've got francium, which has a charge of +1. And we've got phosphide, which has a charge of -3. So we've got 1 and we've got 3. And somehow we have to kind of get them thinking the same way. So what we do, since we've got -3, which is our biggest number, and we've got 1, how do we turn 1 into 3? We multiply our 1 by 3. So if we take 3 franciums times a charge of +1, now we've got a charge of +3. If we take 1 phosphate, which has a charge of -3, then our charge is -3. Our +3 and our -3 balance out, so we have Fr3, the 3's after the francium because we needed 3 franciums, and then we've got the P here for phosphide. Over here, we've got sulfur and indium. So this one's a little trickier because 2 can't directly go into 3. So just like in math, when we're trying to find common denominators, we have to do a little multiplication. So 3 and 2, their smallest common multiple is going to be 6. So how do I get 2 to turn into 6? I have to multiply it by 3. All right, so I've got 3 S's times -2 gives me a charge of -6. Then I've got my indium, which has a charge of +3. How do I get 3 to turn into 6? I have to multiply it by 2. So I've got 2 times this +3 gives me a +6. Now I've got +6 and a -6, which balance out. Now, one thing that's a little trickier here, make sure our cation goes first. So be sure that you wrote indium 2 and then sulfide 3 in that order.